We're going to be doing a video quickly on anxiety. Now, I know you're really anxious to learn more about this, and so I'm going to cut right to the chase. The vagus nerve can reduce the debilitating effects of an anxiety or a panic attack because when the vagus nerve is activated, it calms your system down. But stimulating your vagus nerve alone is not the only way you can help with anxiety. It is a way to do it, but what we have to recognize is, what is anxiety? Anxiety essentially is the feeling when your body is producing adrenaline, for the most part, when your body is in that fight or flight, ready to go state. The way that it's been framed, the way that online influencers who are just kind of picking this up is like, oh, this is a cool little thing to talk about. What they probably don't know is that just because you've activated your vagus nerve, it doesn't decrease your sympathetic tone at all. And actually, it's more optimal for your body to actually be in fight or flight and in parasympathetic at the same time. This is also why I talk a lot about polyvagal theory, because the way they framed it is actually medically completely off base. It's inaccurate. They talk about the dorsal, sympathetic, ventral ladder as if you move out of dorsal and through sympathetic, and then once you've reached ventral, then, you're free of anxiety, but that's totally not true. Your body can be flooded with adrenaline and acetylcholine at the same exact time. So where does that fit in with polyvagal theory or anxiety treatment? Well, it doesn't have to, because all we're saying is that the scientific research shows a certain thing, and these other models that people are, thinking like, oh, this works, are false. They're just not there. So how do we approach anxiety from a more medically accurate perspective, right? So how we approach it from a more scientific perspective is to say that if you're experiencing anxiety in the current moment, the first thing you want to do is just take a moment, pause, and just feel how you feel. Notice the feelings and sensations that you're having in that moment. And there's two kinds of, if being better at handling anxiety is sort of like learning how to be a wine connoisseur. A wine connoisseur doesn't just take a big sip of wine and swallow it. They let it sit in their mouth. They slurp. They get kind of the sensations. They waft the smells. With any kind of sensation in your life that shows up, even good or bad or whatever, it's really important to just notice the full sensation of it. Just be with it, right? Too often, in this day and age, people go for the easy fix, the Xanax. They go for the alcohol, the benzodiazepines. They go for the smoke in the pipe. Whatever the heck you're gonna do, that's gonna help you immediately seize the anxiety is only really a temporary Band-Aid. Okay, and so really, these influencers who are trying to teach you like, the vagus nerve is really the secret thing to reducing anxiety, is that it's just as good as taking Xanax. It's just as good as taking alcohol, as far as providing a kind of a Band-Aid solution to it, right? And so if you want to look at why is anxiety happening in your life, that's actually a better thing to do. So if I have anxiety, I just kind of go, what were some of the things that led to me feeling this way today? I look at it like this. How was my sleep the night before? Oh, maybe I didn't sleep the full 8 hours I needed to. That's probably why I'm having anxiety. I'm not going to shift my entire life based on, feeling a little bit of anxiety. That's just ridiculous. So take account of what got you to this situation and also what you didn't do preceding the moment of anxiety. The issue I think I have is the selling of vagus nerve stimulation as this treatment that you use while you're anxious, whereas it should be looked at as a treatment you do and a system that you do so that you don't become anxious in the first place. If you're stimulating your vagus nerve on a consistent daily basis, things don't emerge like anxiety or depression. You get it? But stimulation of the vagus nerve is not this Band-Aid solution for you. So yeah, I'm gonna call you out, yoga body. Your balloon looks like a clown balloon, and it's a clown tool. Okay, If you want to be really medically astute, use a frickin' syringe or use a piece of technology, okay? People who live in glass houses should not throw stones, okay? So don't come at me talking about what looks weird. Blowing into a balloon is about as weird as blowing into a paper bag, okay? So there you go. I'm just going to put that out there. So yeah, for anxiety, my actual preference for each one of you watching is if you feel anxious, just sit with it. Just be with the anxiety. Stop being like a caged animal and trying to like frantically find your escape path out of it. Just recognize that it's a result. It's an end result. It's an experience that emerged out of systems that you have put in place. So a system can be anything that you do on a consistent basis. For me, one of my consistent habits is doing this hour of power, right? So I go outside, I listen to beautiful music, do affirmations, I do breathing. I do that every morning. The emergent properties of doing the hour of power, the parasympathetic activator with this, is that I don't deal with anxiety because I do this. I don't do this when I feel anxious, but if I feel like, oh man, I'm a little like, I need a little break in between my jam-packed schedule throughout the day. I have like calls with like tons of people every day. Between those calls, I'll go out and do another hour of power. And that makes it so that I'm not experiencing anxiety. This is not an anxiety treatment. The vagus nerve is not an anxiety treatment. The vagus nerve is you keeping yourself healthy so you don't have to deal with these things, right? Because otherwise you're going to spend time, attention, energy, and money on the chasing the tail of the real dragon, which is your vagus nerve. And when your vagus nerve isn't stimulated consistently, then you get anxious. So yes, so if you have anxiety, sit with the anxiety and then start to chart your path. Use that time to say, okay, what are the things I could be doing differently, consistently, that could circumvent this? And yes, that is vagus nerve stimulation. But here's another thing, okay? This is going to be a big one. I want you to type Wim Hof in the chat. If you know Wim Hof, W-I-M-H-O-F, 2 words, Dutch guy, he teaches like a deep form of breathing. Now, that was one of my initial introductions into like real severe levels of autonomic control, where you could literally sit down in a room by yourself and breathe yourself into vagus nerve activation. However, now while I've taught that before and I've really encouraged people to do it, what I've really realized is that when it comes to breathing, you should be outside. You don't want to start associating your brain with stationary activity, sedentary activity, and then flooding your body with acetylcholine. That's actually a bad association because I believe it can make you more attuned to a sedentary lifestyle. So you need to be outside doing breathing to be able to activate your parasympathetic system, okay? And again, I will come back to it. Link in the description. The headphones that we have, the audio program we have on here is a full outdoor walking affirmation, gratitude, joy, happiness, breathing practice where you do walking, breathing with certain patterns. And so you should be doing this. You shouldn't be doing Wim Hof at home by yourself, okay? You should be outside, walking, barefoot, grounding on the beach, walking on the sidewalk, wherever you can, or getting on a treadmill and doing that kind of work. Wim Hof is good in a blue moon, but it should not, I don't believe it should be your daily exercise because you are priming your brain. You are literally creating the neural pathways that like you can get vagal nerve activation through this one thing. And I think you should associate with like going out and walking, right? Because you have to breathe while you're walking. And if you can ideally run, like what I'll do with the hour of power is I'll start jogging on the grass. I have this section of grass outside where it's beautiful, nice, and I can just run in circles. I just jog in a big circle path throughout the first 15 minutes at least of this thing. So yeah. So essentially when it comes to the anxiety feelings is stop trying to chase the treatment and start trying to circumvent it from happening in the first place. That's actually the best methodology to take here. So just sit and notice and feel and explore the anxiety, right? Explore the cognitive experience of anxiety and then start, charting your revenge. That's what I would say, right? If you've been knocked down you sit down and you start thinking of how am I going to make it so that this never happens again? Or at least I'm doing the systems and the strategies so that this doesn't occur as often as it does or with less severity. And if you do that often enough, then you will get to a point where anxiety is not really an option for you anymore. It's just not something that happens. It's impossible. It is impossible to turn off your sympathetic system. Just never going to happen, right? It's impossible to turn off your parasympathetic system too. Okay, so and they both work in concert. They take over like this. Like this is if my hands are at the very bottom of the screen. This is let's say this is sympathetic activity here on this side, and this is parasympathetic activity on the right side. They're both at 0. You're very like lethargic and have no energy, and just like you're almost like just meh, like so mad that nothing matters. That's when both are down. When you're spooked a little bit or something like happens, both of them shoot up at the same time. Okay? It's not like one goes up and then they go like this or anything like this. No. Sympathetic and parasympathetic, scientifically speaking. Now, if you want to go believe other theories, like if you're like, no, I'm a polyvagal adherent and it's been so important for me to have this framework, it's probably better than what you had before because nobody learned any of this stuff in school. So I get that and I appreciate it, but we got to respect that there are some pet theories that may not actually be medically accurate. So the pet theory of polyvagal is like your parasympathetic system goes up and then your sympathetic system goes up and then your parasympathetic goes up, but you have a little bit of sympathetic and it's just like this kind of thing. That's not how it works, right? That's not how it works at all. When you get spooked, when something bad happens, when you're called to attention, both go zoop like this, and you halt for a second, and you take account of the situation. You go, and then what happens is that your parasympathetic system usually will go and drop a little bit, and then you have the energy to go out and make a move, but then your parasympathetic system will immediately engage again, and you'll get still. And that's what they call freezing, even though understanding that freezing is not at all like freezing. If you don't have the conscious awareness enough to not recognize it, if you're completely cut off from your own mind, if you don't meditate or you don't have a mindfulness practice, then it might seem like you're frozen. But if you've meditated enough, which I don't see polyvagal talking about meditation. I mean, I'm sure they do separately, but if you are a meditator and you understand how the mind works, you'll recognize that there's no such thing as freezing. It's your body is in a state of stillness because of increased parasympathetic activity, and your brain is processing escape activities. You're not frozen. There's nothing frozen about it. You're highly engaged in that moment, but your body is staying still because it's looking for the specific condition to be met for escape. Now, if you're replaying an old traumatic memory, then what's going to happen is that you have no mental, cognitive, neurological memory training to escape out of the loop that's happening. So you stay in this state. That's what freezing is. But they say, oh, well, you need to breathe or you just need to increase your vagus. No, that's like dumb old school stuff. You need to know a memory pattern to escape out of the existing feedback loop of dealing with an old trauma. So if you guys have been tuning in on every Friday, we do a live video call on memory training. And I've been getting calls from people, clients, new people who want to sign up for our program who are like, just out of those few videos you've done, it's already helping. They are fully remembering what we've been talking about. And what it does is it gives you this escape pattern to go out of parasympathetic freeze so you can actually drop parasympathetic and take action, okay? Because the only way out of a freeze state is by taking some action, okay? You got to take action. You can't just sit down more and more and more in the hope that the anxiety will pass. And you have to do something with your brain for that to continue. Your brain is like this computer that's getting stuck in this feedback loop of anxiety, and nobody's teaching you the mechanisms of escape, of literally escaping the loop so you can continue into an action state. So yeah, more on that, as we develop, right? I think I'll leave it there for now, but generally speaking, what you should do is go back and watch our memory series. We've done 3 videos already for the last 3 Fridays, And so you should know this: Tai, Noah, Mo, Ro, La, Joy, Ki, Fi, Pi, and Toes. Number 10, toes. So a woman that I spoke to on this Saturday who has just was on one of our 10-minute calls. We scheduled a 60, and she's like, I literally remember every one of those lists you've given me, all of them. So she's like, one was Locket, the other one was Coal, one was Penguins, the other one was Porch. I mean, she can literally like remember back and forth multiple lists at the same time, which is really cool. And because she knows that memory pattern, now she's not remembering traumatic experiences that keep her down, that keep her anxious, that keep her depressed. Yeah, you need to interrupt the looping that happens, okay? And the only way to do it is by engaging your memory system. Why the memory? Look at the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is a cholinergic signaling thing. So when we talk about sympathetic state, that's adrenaline, noradrenaline, noradrenergic receptors have to be engaged for you to be in a sympathetic fight or flight state. And there's a neurotransmitter that's the opposite of that called acetylcholine. And acetylcholine, if you're deficient in it, your vagus nerve may fail because it doesn't have the juice to activate your vagus nerve. So what happens is your vagus nerve provides this impetus for your cholinergic systems to engage, but not just in your body, in your brainstem and your entire cortex. And guess what neurotransmitter is specifically required for you to engage your memory centers, to record new memories and to remember old memories? Choline, acetylcholine. So when you tell your brain, hey, I need to remember this thing, I need to remember something that Sterling told me last week, Tai, Noah, Mo, Ro, La, Joy, Ki, Fi, Pi, Toes, then your cholinergic system immediately goes back up to where it needs to go, now with an escape loop, because all you have to do is just complete the 10. And your brain goes, okay, good enough. Now we're out of it. Now we can take action, right? You see that? So that's how these work, right? It's not complex. So anyway, what should you do? Watch our videos on memory, right? If you have anxiety, learn from us on what we do with the cholinergic system. Don't be a freaking clown and blow into a freaking balloon, dude, and get a syringe if you need that. Blow into a paper bag. Don't look like a clown. You might as well just paint your face white and wear clown makeup while you're at it. But think about this more long term. Vagus nerve stimulation is not a Band-Aid. Vagus nerve stimulation is a lifestyle, okay? This is a lifestyle. This is not like popcorn health, okay? Whereas many other influences will kind of treat it that way. So anyway, that's what I want to say on anxiety. I hope that helps. There's a lot of ways you can reframe anxiety as, it's an emergent anxiety is an emergent property of underlying systems that you do that generate anxiety. Maybe you're watching TV a lot. If your system is, I go home, I eat some junk food, I watch TV, that's what you do every day, that's your system. And there's an emergent set of emotions and bodily types that will emerge from that, don't we know? And so you just go, okay, what are the systems that got me here and what needs to change? And just make the change. It's simple as that. So yeah, that's my take on it. I'm not trying to be your, come here to your rescue and kiss your boo-boos. I think you should be an adult about it. Fair enough? Okay, cool. Well, that's it for this YouTube video. Thanks so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good fun stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.